Sweet. We'll get started then. All right. Thanks, Washed, for
Yeah, of
joining
course.
us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Yeah, I just thought it would be good. Even though market's a bit down, always someone people can learn, and obviously top FOMO trader I think would be very useful. So yeah, we'll get into it.
Sweet.
So yeah, like tell me just how in general how you first got into crypto and like really what made you just take trading seriously in general.
So I'm pretty new. I got into crypto. Well, I mean, relatively new in my opinion. I started back last year in April. I did some NFTs pretty lightly, like in forgot what year they're popular, like 21, 22. But didn't really take it seriously. Didn't make a ton of money. Um, Stopped doing crypto for like, about 2 years. Got back into it. I saw this one guy I followed. I used to like a sneaker reseller. So some guy I followed from that space posted a pretty big P&L from Bohm.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of caught my eye. And I think that was like end of March 24. So I started dabbling pretty quickly after that. But I think I pretty instantly started taking it seriously because I just saw how much money was being made from it, and I knew NFTs went pretty crazy. So I thought this whole meme coin thing could do similar. I was a little late, like I didn't catch like wave anything like that, but still early enough to make some decent money, I'd say. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think I kind of jumped all in when I first started.
yeah. I see. Like, I think I remember one of the first group chats I joined in crypto was actually you were in it. I think you were
That
quite
was
new.
that was my first one. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just really cool, just seeing all that evolve. So, were you like when you first started? Did you struggle, or did you like pick it up really quickly? Like, what was like the journey? Was it up and down, or like linear?
I'd say I picked it up pretty quickly. I've always been a pretty like savvy guy when it comes to like different like online like money making opportunities, I'd say. Like I used to like resell, did NFTs, always been kind of like a tech guy, so kind of picked it up quickly, I'd say. Entire journey definitely wasn't linear, but I only started with a small amount, just a few thousand. I didn't really need to like redeposit after that.
Mhm.
So just kind of slowly grew that. First like month or so was pretty slow. Just trying to like learn the game, learn how to like 'cause I didn't really know much about crypto other than like the very like basics, like gas fees, all that. So I think the first month was really just kind of boots on the ground, learning like what does well, what doesn't, like how to buy coins, all that. Um, but yeah, I think easy. I was pretty quick to learn, but definitely had a lot of tough lessons throughout the journey.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what I've kind of seen with a lot of good traders I've talked to. That first like 1 to 2 month period is super stagnant, just like picking up stakes and just trying to build like a system. And then like
Mm,
after that, they kind of get the hang of it. It's kind of just like, it's kind of off from there, really. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, you've been trading for almost 2 years now. What would you say is like your biggest win and like your biggest loss and what you kind of took away from both?
Biggest win overall was perps. I caught an ETH long back last year. I think like June, no, like May, June.
Hmm.
Kind of that pivot point when ETH BTC bottomed. I caught ETH from like 2K to like I think 3.5. I was in pretty decent size. That was my biggest overall win. That was like I don't want to give exact numbers, but like mid to high six figures. Biggest on chain was ARC back in AI season.
Oh yeah.
That was I caught that at like I think I got in at like 1.5, and then I rode I would say most of my bag. I sold along the way, but I rode a good portion of my bag up to the top of like 600 mil. I think is what it tops out at.
Yeah.
And that was a little less than the perp win, but still, that was like my biggest on chain one. I haven't hit like any seven figures. I've always been a guy who likes to sell pretty aggressively.
Mm.
So I was a bit of a Jeet. I wouldn't like sell like super early. I wasn't like a cup C type of trader, but never really rode stuff to like crazy like 7 or 8 figure P&Ls, but I've had a good amount of 6 figure ones under my belt. I'm pretty happy with.
Yeah, nice. And loss? Any big losses?
Biggest loss, perps again. I gave back most of that ETH trade. Not in one trade, but over the course of like a month. Kind of crashed out.
Ah,
Leverage trading. So I gave back most of that big P&L. So that was a pretty bad one. And then on chain, I've actually been pretty good at risk management there, and I haven't really had any big losses. I've always been a guy who likes to get in early. Um, and kind of just ride up rather than sizing in late. I think my biggest one I could think of actually was Binance season, like the when we just had. I sized into that financial freedom or whatever it was called.
oh,
That
yeah, that one. The
yeah.
Keanu Reeves one? Yeah.
Yeah. I sized into that literally the night before it tanked. I put in like I think like 200 there, and then I had more across other like BSC
Mhm.
coins. So woke up to like that basically being zeroed out, so that kind of sucked. But yeah, I think earlier on, like last year, I never really sized into stuff too aggressively too early, and if I did, I usually won from it. So I mean, up until like this point, no like crazy big on chain losses. I think Libra, I got cooked a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, maybe like low six figures there, but those are the two that come to mind. Other than that, nothing too big.
Yeah, yeah. So you spoke about the ARC trade kind of being your biggest on-chain win. What was kind of like the mindset at the time? What was kind of going through you that allowed you to hit that trade?
So that one came at an interesting time. That was like one that was a little later in AI season, I'd say, and I I didn't zero myself out during summer, but I ran down my portfolio like 80%, 75%. So I was in a pretty bad like mental state, like trading wise. Just wasn't really confident at all. I don't know if how many of you guys were trading back in summer of 24, but it was pretty bad conditions. So I kind of let that frame my mind too much. So when AI season started like in October, I was still pretty jaded. So I was reading a lot of stuff. So like I fumbled like 1% of Go at like, I think I got in Go when I was like 250K, sold at like 50K before, like right when it bottomed, then it went crazy.
Yeah.
I fumbled Zero Bro, Genon, like all the big AI coins I had like a good amount of.
Hmm.
Um, and then I fumbled that early. So Arc was like my first one that I actually like, held on to. Because those prior ones I was just so scared of losing that I would like sell at any red
Yeah.
candle. Um, Arc was the first one that I would say the first one, but the first one in like good size I was able to ride. Um, so I got in early, and it was a pretty easy hold, to be honest, just because the momentum carried it. Like it
Hmm.
went from 1 mil to 30 mil, like just
I
straight up.
remember.
There's no point where I was like worried of like it tanking or whatever. So I rode that up. I started taking profit a little bit at 30 mil, and then I just kind of took profit throughout the trade. I was pretty happy with my execution on it overall. Sure, like I would have loved to like hold my entire bag all the way up to the tippity top and sell it there, but that's just not realistic. So I kind of just sold in increments. I think I sold like first TP was around like 50, then sold more at like 150, and then every like 50 to 100 mil just shave off a little bit, and
Hmm.
didn't really round trip anything there, and got out fully at the top. So overall pretty happy with the trade. Think it was like a really big like turning point for me, just because previously I was just selling stuff way too early and wasn't holding, so that kind of gave me the confidence to hold stuff again.
Yeah, sick. Yeah, I remember I was in the chat. You scanned it in. I think
Hmm.
you scanned it in at about like 500K, and that was a
Yeah,
good trade for me as well. I got it at 30 mil, but I just kind of like held it all the way back up to 600.
yeah,
So
it was a
yeah,
crazy trade.
definitely good. So yeah, just into my next question. Like, I see you buying on FOMO here and there. You have a big following on there. Like, what specific things are you like looking for before entering a coin? And like what red flags make you avoid a coin?
I think red flags would be I'll start with green flags actually. Green flags, I like to look at like who's behind the trade and see how big their audience is, whether it's like the people pushing it, the dev, or even the narrative, just how big and like how far it could go. So like say if you look at something like Kita, where like a big selling point for that was that the I don't know if for Schmidt or something. He was like a
Google guy.
investor at Google. Yeah, the Google guy. That kind of carried it to like start off. That was like a big selling point for everybody. And I think if you look a lot of like these like more utility plays or like stuff like Kita, you'll find that they have like a big name attached to it. So I think on a higher level, when you're like looking at bigger plays like that, that's a pretty big key thing. If you're looking at like lower stuff like soul trenches, I just look at it from like a narrative and see how far it can kind of snowball. The trenches have been a little lower ceilings as of late, so it's kind of hard to gauge where stuff will go. But I just try to think about who the next buyer could be
Hmm.
and how far the coin can go from there. Um, I guess that's like I guess, yeah, narrative and people are kinda like my 2, like, things that I look for initially.
Yeah.
Um, as far as red flags, it's hard. It's kinda different for, like, every type of trade. Like, I guess, like, tech play or, like, a utility play, I'll look at, like, the team again and see, like, they're doxed, they have prior experience. If they don't really check out, that's an immediate red flag for me.
Hmm.
Um, if it's like a more of like a shitter type play, I'll look at like who's pushing it early. I'm not gonna like name drop certain people, but I'm sure you guys have those guys on the timeline that you kind of see them pushing a coin,
Yeah.
and you're automatically kind of put off. I have a few of those guys I kind of look at, and if they're pushing something, I'm just immediately not in it, even if I like it. I
Yeah.
feel like more oftentimes than not, that's a pretty good indicator.
Yeah, sweet. So I heard you mention narrative quite a few times. So would you say like on chain, especially narrative matters much more than TA, like technical analysis and price action?
Yes, definitely. I think I was actually gonna tweet something about that earlier today. That's funny. But yeah, I think narrative kind of carries everything.
Hmm.
Um, I think if you even if you like a higher level like BTC, a lot of like I don't agree with this, but a lot of like the idea is that like the digital coin narrative's dead, right? Because like Bitcoin is like falling the 4 year cycle again. People are worried that like, oh, maybe we were wrong about it, whatever. And price action is kind of following that, right? Like a bunch of TA guys were calling for um bottoms every like 5, 10K move, and they were just wrong over and over again. Why? Because I think the narrative's a little scary right now. Um, I don't necessarily agree that it's a um, dead concept. I just think that like narrative is scaring people, and that TA kind of comes second to that. And if you look at like on chain stuff, it's similar where once the narrative starts dying, um, levels just don't hold.
Yeah.
If you look at like the meme trade, the AI trade, any meta we've had, as soon as that narrative starts dying, people just bail and like TA can't save anything. Um, I think fundamentals are similar. There's lots of coins out there. I mean, like kind of like Pump Fun. I've been pretty bearish on it for a little bit now. Um, their fundamentals look good. They do high revenue, high volume, high buybacks, but the coin just kind of looks trash. And it was like that even before Bitcoin started really nuking. And I
Hmm.
just think that's because some of the narrative there's died. Like CCM was what really like turbo launched it on that's like most like recent leg, and that's not doing great right now. So I think that narrative's dying, and as a result, like it just kind of went straight down. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think on chain, like it's just narrative and then psychology follows narrative. That's why a lot of these price targets don't hold because if the narrative dies out, people just have no reason to hold anyway and they just mass sell some,
Yeah, yeah, I think TA is
oil.
kind of a meme when it comes to like lower cap on chain
Yeah.
stuff. Um, I don't think it's a thing to like worry about too much.
Yeah, I think it's good for like maybe lower time frames, but definitely on like a higher time frame, it's
Yeah,
unpredictable with on-chain
mhm.
for sure.
It all takes one seller just to kill a chart, and
Yeah, just
yeah,
one 50K stack nuke and chart breaks down for sure.
mhm, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm sure you've seen a lot of coins just run over the years. Like, what do you think has been the biggest reasons why coins have run? Like, especially in AI, like what made You think AA16Z, ARC, Farcoin, like memes especially. Like what do you think has made a meme run?
I think the novelty behind the coin, if it's new, like looking at Go, how that kind of kickstarted the whole AI thing.
Hmm.
Um, it was just such a new and novel concept that like we're getting AI exposure because AI is like the biggest like narrative in the world, and you get some like legitimate AI exposure on chain. I think that's pretty crazy, and like I think it's kind of hard to top. So I think like when we see something new that comes on chain that has like a decent like a baseline,
Hmm.
that will kind of just go crazy. If you look at like ICM too with Believe, they went from like 1 million to 300 mil in like probably like a week or something, right? Like whenever you get these new opportunities on chain of something new that we haven't seen before, stuff gets pretty crazy pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. So you're
It's just
practically.
looking at like the where it could go from like
Hmm.
how it could like break outside of CT and hit like bigger buyers.
Yeah. So the marginal buyer, you're always
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
yeah. So the biggest thing you'd say is novelty. So how unique a coin is, and just like if this uniqueness can translate to like a higher buyer coming outside of crypto.
Exactly, and I mean, like, we've seen that, with AI specifically, that the marginal buyer was, like, funds,
Hmm.
um, and I think that's kinda the goal for, like, any on-chain, like, coin now. We're seeing it a little bit with MetaDAO. There was some fun interest there, but, other than AI and MetaDAO, we haven't really seen that, like, funds flow come back into play. Um, so I think whatever the next, like, on-chain big narrative is, that's kinda the marginal buyer.
Yeah.
Um, if they come back, who knows? But I think that's kinda, like, the what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that with Avicii right now and its strength, like
Yeah.
just around that there's been a lot of funds interested in just
Mhm,
accumulating or OTCing. So that's probably a big reason why for it's just held so steady despite the market downturn.
mhm. Agree.
Yeah. And just what's your like overall read on the market right now? Are you bearish, bullish? What's the cycle like? Where do you think we are?
I'm pretty bear hold right now, to be honest. I think the correct framing is to lean a little bearish until proven otherwise. I don't think it's worth marrying the 4-year cycle, but I mean, currently we're trading as if it's over. I don't necessarily think it's over. I think that the 4-year cycle will be invalidated. I think like the bottom should be like next year, October, something like that. I think
Hmm.
that gets front run and we bottom out sooner. So I don't think it's over, but I do think it's better to be risk off right now and
Yeah.
kinda treat it as it's being over and being like a survival mode rather than trying to make it all back right here.
Hmm.
Um, I think on-chain's in a bit of a unique spot where, a lot of, like, the big narratives that we've seen, like memes, AI, ICM. I think ICM's, like, the kinda, like, last one lingering right now. It kinda took a hit when Believe,
Oh yeah.
died. But, MetaDAO is looking pretty strong,
Mhm.
when they're,
Yeah.
like, launches. I think, liquidity on chain is gonna be a lot more concentrated going forward, and we're gonna see, maybe less opportunities, but, like, just better ones. I
Yeah, true.
feel like, with memes and AI, we saw just a lot of, like, sloppy stuff come out that went crazy, because there's just so much money in the ecosystem that people could afford to hold 10 different coins at once and put pretty big numbers in that. A lot of that money isn't as risk on as it used to be, and, we've seen how these, like, trades kinda play out, so everyone knows, for the most part, how to trade coins. I think people are just gonna be rushing more toward, like, a VG type plays where, they're safer, they have good fundamentals, they're not gonna go anywhere, um, so just kind of like a flight to quality.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's like something that's actually kind of a good thing of being active during like these downtimes. It's the quality is really easy to spot because everything is
Mhm,
just a sea of shit practically. So just being active during like these downtimes, you can instantly see what's catching the bid. And eventually when liquidity does come back, if so, no matter how long, it'll flow into really what's sticking out. And it's quite easy to see for sure. Yeah. So you'd say we're in now is the goal to just like preserve and survive is kind of
yeah,
what
I think, I mean, I don't. I find it kinda hard to believe that Bitcoin's gonna put new height in this year.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's possible maybe Q1. I'm still not really too sure. I'm just gonna kinda I'm not really exposed to the market right now, but idea is to hopefully get some exposure on a dip soon. Um, hold that. I think we can do a little Santa rally. Maybe put in a move to like 100, 110-ish before the end of the year, and then maybe some more downside from there. Not too sure. I'm not too married to either way, but I think stuff is a little weird too with like the stock market. A lot of people think that's topping out. So I mean, if that starts trading down, that's gonna take crypto down with it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um, so I think it's just generally a time to be risk off. I don't want to say it cycle's over, it's over, pack up your bags. I just think it's good to be active, look for opportunities, but keep your like capital preserved because there's nothing like even if there's good opportunities right now, the ceilings aren't too high. So it's not like something you need like rush into and like allocate a bunch to.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It reminds me of like a GCR tweet. I think he said people are too quick to grow capital and too slow to protect it. So
100%. Yeah.
that's a big thing a lot of the trenches face where they try and grow it too fast in downtimes, but they just forget to protect it and then they get wiped out.
Yep.
Yeah. So, FOMO is onboarding a lot of retail and new users. What would you say if you were a brand new user just spawning on FOMO, spawning in the trenches, like how they would survive in during these times and how would they end up becoming profitable?
I would stay off new pairs. I wouldn't try to play the new pair game if you're new. That's kind of I'd say really tough right now just because tooling is so advanced. Um, I think it's better to find like stuff that's like maybe a few days old, a week old, or even like older charts that are trying to get momentum. Focus on that and try not to oversize in this market because realistically, we're not going to see any crazy like 100 mil runners. Um, I mean, Avicii's kind of going for it right now, but I think mostly ceilings are pretty low. So it's a time to kind of learn. Just play small size, put it in coins you like, and just see how they trade. And try to get a good read of the market
Hmm.
while the times are a little slower.
Yeah. So you're saying like now's probably not the time new traders are gonna hit like 100x's, 200x's, but rather just a time to kind of like learn and kind of stick around until good or easy times come around.
Yeah, really, just time to kind of like sharpen your mindset. Get like hone in your tooling. Kind of get your footing. So when times are better, you have that kind of foundation to work off of.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yes, I've seen your FOMO P&L before. It's very stable, like it's linear and just like little ups and downs. So you obviously have quite good risk management and just understanding your trader psychology. So like what are some risk management strategies you use in your own trading?
For specifically on chain, I like to it's a little different than like my answer is different now than it would have been like half a year ago or like a year ago. Market just obviously isn't the same as it was like during the peak AI or peak meme trade.
Hmm.
Um, I like to sell pretty aggressively now. I like to play my P&L more so than playing charts. So if I'm up a good bit, even if like the coins do not hit my targets, I'll take some profit. Um, I think on my most recent challenge, I ran up like 25 to 250, and I did that with like I think like 3 or 4 trades made up the bulk of my P&L,
Hmm.
and they were just all kind of getting in early and then selling the chart like on the way up and playing my P&L. There's some that I probably sold too early, but for my P&L size or like my position size, I was like try to focus more on that rather than the chart. Um, Obviously ceilings are lower, so coins tend to not run as hard, and it's kind of hard to play your chart and like set like targets like 5 mil, 10 mil,
Hmm.
whatever it is. So I think just relative to your port size, it's important to kind of take money that's like big to you and then roll that over rather than setting like big targets.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So you mentioned doing this 25 to 250K challenge. Were you trading like mid caps or low caps? Like, did you ever switch from low cap to mid cap as you grew your portfolio? Like, what was the allocation looking like?
I wasn't really holding, it was a bunch of, like, newer pairs, stuff that was, like, launched within, like I wasn't, like, playing super low caps, I wasn't playing, like, 50K stuff like that, but, like, around a mil, that's kinda the sweet spot I
Yeah.
found, like, 1 to, like, 3 mil, I'd size in there, look for multiple, like, of, like, 5, maybe 10x if possible, and then get out, and then roll that over.
Yeah. I think that's what I've noticed with a lot of like uh, good new traders, especially new traders, the ideal range for them to get in is kind of like that 400 to 1 mil range and selling around that 2 to 3 mil range for most trades. I've noticed that's been most profitable, especially.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a market to be quick flipping. I think like there's really not many reasons or many coins that I've seen that are worth holding for more than like a week. And like
Mhm.
I don't love that the market's like that, but you kind of just gotta play what's in front of you.
Yeah.
I think the market's been rewarding those types of traders rather than people who hold stuff for more than like 5, 7 days. Um, so yeah, I think it just getting in early at the start of a trend, um, selling aggressively, like don't sell like all at once, of course, but like try to like sell up and not sell on the way down. I find that when I sell on the way up, even like little bits, my overall execution is a lot better. I'm less like if I hold a coin from like say if I get in like a 1 mil right up to like 5 mil and it starts dipping to 3 mil, I panic.
Hmm.
If you sell on the way up, you kind of minimize that, like, panic, that you didn't sell enough.
Yeah.
So I think it's always good to be in the mindset of always selling.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed like just selling along the way, it improves the mental game like so much in
Mhm.
trading for sure. And the most dangerous part of like actually losing a trade is not the trade itself, but the trades you take after, because that tilted mindset, you'll just proceed to overtrade and revenge a trade and practically like wash down your port. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely. I've tilted so many times, and it's just because of been poor execution. Like, I'll fumble one trade, and that just kinda snowballs. So, I mean, you just gotta stay consistent in that, like, always be selling mindset, and, sometimes you're gonna sell too early, too much, and that's fine because it's still profit at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's better to approach it like that rather than holding. I don't know what my final, after, like, my challenge ended, I kept on loading up my account just, like, separately, just trading normally. And I chopped myself up there because I started holding coins again, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
Um, I think the market's just gonna be like that for a little bit, unfortunately. So, really not a holder friendly market, but yeah, just selling any like green candle, um, selling into that, and then rolling over profits, booking them is pretty important.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, you're a pretty big user of FOMO. Like, how do you personally use it? And like, what do you think the biggest advantages of just like using FOMO when you're trading have been and could help other people?
I use it more so for execution rather than tracking. I used to be a big wallet tracker. I've kind of stopped doing that because I found that it was kind of noisy and it started affecting my execution. So I try to just find coins like organically, whether it's like Twitter or like even the FOMO feed. I don't really have notifications on for people. I think the FOMO feed's pretty cool. I'm just kind of seeing what people are doing. But I like it more so for execution. I think it's helpful seeing like who's in the coin with you, how much everyone's up, um, the feed, and see what people are doing. I think those are all pretty cool features, and just having like, a good mobile companion of like seeing a chart live and how a coin's trading and be able to like trade from there is pretty useful.
Yeah, I remember like back in the day when we kind of first started, we'd like just get like dumped on KOLs a ton and it wasn't really transparent. And finding
Yeah.
wallets was like, I think that's kind of like now like one good thing about FOMO. It's super transparent. You're able to like kind of understand the flow of the market way better, especially if you were
Mhm.
new. If I first started back then and I had FOMO, like, oh my gosh, would
Oh,
have
it would
been
be way different.
way bigger advantage for sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
No, FOMO's been I just noticed my execution when I trade on FOMO so much to be so much better. Like I've almost
Mhm.
entirely stopped using terminals. I'll still use like some like Telegram bots every now and then, but I mean like from an execution standpoint, I think FOMO has it like nailed. I think that's like if you want to work on execution, FOMO is definitely the place to be trading.
Yes, yeah, 100%. I think I used to be big on just raw dogging Jupiter, um,
Mhm.
especially with my size trades. And I think FOMO is just like so fun in that aspect. It's like it makes size trades more gamified and just more fun in general to do. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
Jupiter UI is so clanky and stuff. So just
yeah.
being able to do it on like
I
it's
noticed
really
that too, that a lot of the time when, like, the market was, like, a little slow, like, during summer of this year, I just stopped trading for a bit because there was nothing really that was super exciting to me, and then, FOMO came out. This is, like, probably April, May. Um, I just started trading, like, smaller size and just kinda, like, for fun, and, like, I was actually enjoying trading again for the first time in a while just because of using FOMO. Wasn't necessarily because like, the coins were doing well. I just loved using the app, so I still find myself, like, on it all the time just because I like the app.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I think now we'll give some time to the audience. If you just want to put any questions you have in the family chat of what you want to ask Twash on trading, anything, he'd be happy to answer them if you guys want to. We'll see what they say. I think it'll give them a few minutes. But yeah, just like in general, like with on-chain and trading, like where do you see it going? Like, poly market's been becoming a lot bigger. People are saying it's the new trenches. Like, what would you say is like gonna happen on chain the next couple of years?
I kinda touched on it before, but I think liquidity is gonna concentrate more. I think it's gonna be, the past, like, year or 2, I think it was a quantity over quality game where you can kinda just allocate to a bunch of coins and win. I think now you've gotta be a lot more, precise with your selection. I think, as far as, like, I don't think there's, like, an overall, like, meta going forward. I think they're just gonna be, like, cool projects, um, that aren't really, like, in a meta per se. I think MetaDAO could be pretty good for launches. I think everything they've launched so far has been pretty good. Um, and I still think MetaDAO. I'm not allocated it right now, but I think MetaDAO itself is a pretty good coin to like invest in. It's the only one that's really getting interest from funds,
Hmm.
and usually funds have been pretty good at signal. So I think that type of stuff where it's like launches by like legitimate teams that are like backed. I think, stuff like that's the most interesting. We're gonna see more of that kind of, start becoming the norm. Um, I don't think the meme trade is done, but I think it's, like, topped in the sense that, like, we're not gonna see those billion-dollar runners anymore. I
Hmm.
think, there's always gonna be, like, the new TikTok trend, um, like 6-7 coin, like,
Yeah.
I think there's always gonna be those, but I don't think it's worth, like, being super zoned in there and trying to catch every, like, micro TikTok trend. I think, you're better off trying to, find coins like Avicii, um, like, really solid projects that people actually use and, get in those early and kinda ride that up. I think that's gonna be the kind of way we're headed.
Yeah, I think the market's just been maturing. Like meme
Yep.
ceilings, like virality isn't as valued as much like as it
Mhm.
was back in the day. Now people want revenue, they want, substance. That's especially probably why Avicii and MetaDAO have been running, people know that's what survives in bear times.
Yeah,
So
exactly, like, with, the whole, like, meme trade, like, we all know how that kinda plays out, right? And, like, most of the time, it just doesn't end great. I think people are realizing that,
Mhm.
and they're not really falling into that trap anymore where they're, like, buying these memes at super high valuations because they end up just falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
Um, I think stuff like Avicii, I keep going back to that, but that's, like, the one that comes to mind. Um, these are a bit newer, and, we don't know what their ceilings are, per se. So it's a novel in that aspect where it's, like, new enough for us to speculate and, be able to, like, hold it rather than knowing it's, like, gonna top out a certain market cap.
Yeah, for sure. So we just have a question here from one of the listeners. Trail mix. Okay, so he's asking when you're in these momentum trades, do you use any like technicals to let you know that like momentum is dying, or is it just vibes and intuition, really?
Vibes and intuition mainly. I don't know any like, I don't use, like, any, VOps or anything like that. I have like a general TA understanding. I just kind of play level to level. I
Hmm.
think if I see like I think my back when I was doing ARC, I sold most of my bag or like the last of my bag at like 450-ish because I think that was like a structure break. I think just looking at volume and structure at these like higher market cap coins, I think that can give you some like decent insight. But it's mainly just comes down to like kind of vibes on just like where the I think the trade is at overall. Again, just the AI trade seemed a bit not dead, but it was like dying.
Hmm.
So that's what played in me selling. I think you just get a feel for it. You kind of just understand where coins start losing momentum after trading for a while. It's nothing you can really like learn quickly. It just kind of after trading so many coins, you start to like kind of notice when people are getting out of those and moving on to something else.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's just intuition in general. Like
Yeah.
scientifically, it's pattern recognition over thousands of times, and it just kind of forms your mind in that way. So it's just
Yep.
experience at the end of the day, for sure. And then we have another question from, oh, sorry if I pronounce this wrong, Matthew Gina. What do you think is like the best strategy to trench in like new chains? For example, what happened with BNB, and today we had Monad launch, on FOMO especially.
I think BNB was tough. I performed pretty poorly on that. I think BNB was kind of an anomaly. It felt like the Chinese kind of ran that and we had to play their game for a little bit and they won pretty heavily.
Yeah.
Um so I wouldn't worry too much about like newer stuff like that, but when it comes to like Monad, it's it's weird because everyone's looking at the same memes. Like everyone wants to buy the G Monad or like the mascot of Monad.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that simple. I think the even though like we all know how to trade memes at this point, we all kind of know that like those are the obvious ones, right? But those aren't the ones that run.
Mhm.
I haven't really I've been traveling most of the day, so I haven't taken a look at Monad too much yet. I've just seen some coin scan. Um, but based on what I'm seeing, I don't think like Gmonad is gonna be the runner or like Monas is gonna be the runner. I don't think any like meme like that's gonna be the runner. I think it's gonna be something that people aren't really talking about. I think there's gonna be a silent runner. I think FOMO is gonna be pretty useful for that because FOMO shows you who's in the trade and how much they're allocate, like how much money they have in it. I think there's a lot of alpha in looking for coins that don't have a lot of people in it, rather than looking for these crowded trades. Um, so if I were trading Monad right now, I would definitely be using FOMO, trying to see what people are invested into, and how many like holders each coin has. If you see a coin that's like at a decent market cap but not many people are in it, that might be a good one to look more into because there could be something there. I think these crowded coins aren't going to be the ones. So I think it's definitely gonna have some runners, but just try to look at who's in the coin and how early they are. And I think there's a lot of signal there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then last question from Trail Mix again. He's asking, how do you think about sizing? Like, how much of your portfolio are like you putting in each trade? And also, he's asking, who do you think is the best trader on FOMO and like most underrated as well?
As far as sizing for on chain, I really don't like to oversize on chain at all. I think it's been kind of tough to do that recently with like these lower ceilings. I don't have a set like size to allocate like per play. I'll just kind of I'll bid more so on like a percentage basis. So like if I see a coin at like 2.5 mil and I want to grab a percent or half a percent, I'll put in whatever that is if my portfolio, like my account allows for it at the time. Um so I don't have a typical like percent because like if you guys like followed my challenge, I would full port sometimes. And I mean that's like not like an overall like all like outside of FOMO like full port. It's just like my wallet on FOMO. So I like to think about it more like wallet rather than portfolio. But yeah, I like to try to grab like certain percentages. Like if I like a coin and it's expensive and I don't want to like buy a 10, I'll try to grab like 0.25, right? That's kind of my outlook on it. I don't have like set like requirements or like criteria I kind of like stick by.
Yeah. Yeah, sweet. And then obviously the underrated,
Best trader. Let me take a look at the app really quick.
like anybody
Um,
you're really like, oh, this guy's good, but not many people know about him.
yeah. I think there's different ones. I like Leo a lot for higher higher cap plays. I think
Uh,
he's pretty good at nailing these like 2 to 3 X's on size. I think there's a lot of signal on his. Um, Cypher is pretty good. I think he ran up like 1K to 100K
yeah,
recently.
he's one of the first people to
He's
do it.
not very like I don't have any like really low key ones to be honest. I'm not very good at like scoping out these guys when they're like small.
Yeah,
I've known Cypher for another group chat, so I saw him run it up. But I think he was a pretty impressive one too, and he had a good P&L curve, really like no downtrend. Let's see who else. Andy had a really good run for a while. I haven't been tracking people in general, but I think Andy has got a really good idea of like I think he's got really good at like finding like these like super low cap ones.
yeah,
Um, I think there's a lot of signals in his account too, but off the top of my head, yeah, those are kind of the three. Not really underrated guys, unfortunately. But I think they're still good follows.
yeah, sweet. I think a guy I've been liking recently is, do you know Foreskin Bane? Have you heard of him?
Let me see. I don't know off the top of my head now.
He's been pretty solid recently. I think he's like he has his own FNF, and then of course, there's another Leo. I think he's in here as well right now. He's been super solid.
Oh
If
yeah,
it,
yeah, I know that Leo too. Yeah, yeah, Leo's good too. He's really good.
yeah, yeah. And just do you have any final thoughts for new traders right now? You know that every trader should be really thinking about just to leave off.
Yeah, I think if you're new, I'll be transparent. I think you're coming at a tough time. I think a lot of the bigger guys who kind of made it already are on their way out. But I think with a lot of these like old metas dying or slowing down, I think we're gonna see some new cool stuff start popping up fairly soon. There's still a ton of attention on chain and people want stuff to bid. They haven't really found it yet. I think metadata projects have some of the stuff you're looking for in terms of like, a new thing, even though they're still kind of like ICM. Um, I think looking for spots like that is gonna be the future. I think I would try to stay away from the new pair game. Um, Especially if you're a newer guy, it's generally just pretty hard. Like I can't even trade it well these days.
Mm,
Um, I think just focusing on that like 1 to 5 mil market cap for like stuff like larger than pump, is kind of the sweet spot that you should really be focusing on. So try to just get a good read of the market there. I think using the FOMO feed's really good actually. It gives you like a real time analysis of like market sentiment and what people are buying. And
yeah,
I think just spend a lot of your time there honestly and just like look at what people are buying, what they're selling, and you just try to gauge where people are headed and follow that momentum. It's all momentum trading at the end of the day. So FOMO, like, there's really no apps that do it better than FOMO when it comes to that. It just
mm,
gives you a real time feed of like what people are doing in a very concise, like clear way. So I think that's a lot of alpha still. I don't hear people talking about it too much. I think when people think of FOMO, they think about like copy trading like a top guy. You
yeah,
can certainly do that, but I think there's a lot more upside in you using the feed and kind of formulating your own like game plan or like using it as a scanner almost to see like what new coins are popping up that people are buying and look like find what if you see a lot of people buy a certain coin like look in the coin and figure out why they're buying it rather than just blindly tailing. I don't really
yeah,
think it's a good environment for you to be blind tailing people into coins right now. I think it's all about building your own conviction at this stage of the market.
yeah, for sure. I think that's a good way. I like to use FOMO. I kind of instead of just copy trading, I like to see it as like directing where the wind blows. You know what I mean? Like I can see where like
Hmm.
the herd is going to move before it's fully made the move because you can start to see the flows quite early. Whereas back in the day, you'd sometimes miss a whole meta just because you were like kind of out of it and you weren't active on CT or in group chats, and you just missed everything. So it's just really good to have that kind of flow indicator on what to do and where's everything going for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Wash, for coming on. It was really helpful just educate any new traders and just on your story. Yeah. So
Of
thanks a
course,
lot.
thanks for having me. I was hyped to do this.
All right. No worries. And yeah. So
Yeah, really
hope you.
appreciate both of you guys, man. This has been really cool to hear you guys chat.
Of course, no problem. If anyone listening, if you have any questions, I'll be pretty like happy to chat or like help out whenever. So just like shoot me a DM or even tag me in the family chat. Happy to stick around and answer questions if you guys have anything.
Sweet. Sweet. All right. Thank you, everyone. You have a good day.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Cheers, man.
Bye.
Bye.